Hello and welcome to the second in our Farm Green series of Inspiring Sustainable Farming. I hope you enjoyed the previous webinar we did on data and have found that the importance of data is key in terms of making decisions, but data isn't actually that complicated to keep on farm. We're delighted to be joined today by Steve Dunkley and Sarah Hurford from AHDB to talk about an exciting opportunity that's available right now. We're all bombarded by dates, 2024 being the first one that comes to mind with single farm payment changes. We also have 2030, 2040 and 2050 banded around as targets for sustainable environmental and climate challenges. So where do we need to start? It's not like being at school and waiting till the last minute and doing a last minute scramble to get things right. We actually have to start now. And as we turn from one year to another and 2022 is looming ever closer, we really need to take action. And the opportunity that's presented to us now from DEFRA, which Steve and Sarah are going to talk us through, is an exciting one and very much encourage farmers to listen and take up the opportunity. Without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Steve.
Cheers, Sarah. Thank you very much for the introduction and also for the opportunity to speak on the webinar today. We're just going to talk a little bit about the Future Farming Resilience Fund project that we've been awarded by DEFRA. It's about business support. What you've said about reduction in BPS is entirely right. We know that BPS is going to reduce by 5%. Those first checks, as it were, will land on people's doormats this year in December with that 5% reduction. And we know by 2024 it's going to be 50% reduced. So actually standing back, looking at the future of the business and looking how to maybe replace some of that lost income from BPS is really key for a lot of businesses out there. So we put together a new service. It's the Farm Business Review Service. It allows farmers half a day's consultancy. And I'll just talk through a few slides just to explain the service for people. So just going to say a little bit about the Farm Business Review Service that we're now currently running for the industry across England. It's funded by DEFRA under the Future Farming Resilience Fund. A lot of farmers won't have heard of that, but effectively it's there to provide business support, and a number of different people have won funding from DEFRA to do that. And I'm just going to say a little bit about our project, how to access the service and what it entails. So it's the AHDB Farm Business Review. As I said, it provides free business support to farmers really around that loss of income in terms of direct payments, and really looking to the future as well as to what is coming down the line. We don't know a huge amount about SFI, but we know we just had recent announcements around the Farm Investment Fund and other capital grants that might be available. So the service can provide a bit of support for people to help demystify what those options are going forward. It's targeted at farms across England, and we're looking at cereals and oilseeds, beef and sheep, so that's really relevant for today, and dairy farms across England. The service provides a one-to-one review, so initially half a day's consultancy support using our online tool, the Farm Business Review tool, which Sarah will go on to demonstrate a bit later. But the real added value is that discussion with the consultant. We're working with a number of consultancy companies right across England, and there will be one local to you that you can tap into and use. The service is actually only available till February 22 at the moment, but that service includes a look at the BPS calculator, so really look at the reductions in the farm business in terms of BPS income, an assessment of the strengths and weaknesses within the business using the tool. We have something called the resilience assessment that we can walk people through. It's a series of questions that you answer and self-rate yourself on. And really, if you want to get the most out of this, it's useful to have your latest set of accounts and some basic production data. Just coming back to what Sarah Haire said about production data. Using that, we can calculate a number of KPIs, and we can do those within the tool as well, really to look at what the farm's performance is looking like. And then really, again, the added value of working with the consultant, it's the discussion, it's the analysis, the interpretation of all that information to look at what the business needs to prioritise and what should be taken forward. We also then have, in addition to the half-day consultancy, some follow-on business advice. So for businesses where there's a clear need, we can offer three types of follow-on support. One would be around cost control, so looking at benchmarking, looking at really drilling into the enterprise costs within the business, so we can do that using our Farm Bench tool. The second one is around business planning, so it could be actually there's a piece of work needed to be done to do some new budgets, maybe looking at changing the system on the farm, or it could actually be looking at forward planning and thinking a bit about succession or even retirement options and bringing someone new into the business. So that would be the business planning piece. And then the third and final one is a carbon audit. So it could be that you actually want to look at where the hotspots are within the business in terms of carbon. That audit would produce a management plan where you would have a site visit with a consultant to walk through the options on that carbon audit and action plan. We're then going to wrap all that up with some support around some webinars in terms of what are the key topics that people might be identifying in their action plans. And there's a range of web-based resources that you can tap into as well, depending on what you want to identify and work on the farm. How do you sign up? Well, you sign up directly through the Farm Business Review tool. The web address is there, and there is support for you to do that through our own help desk, and actually the web and the email address there as well if you want to tap into the help desk support. So far, as of this morning, we've had over 600 farmers signed up for the service, and we're working with those farmers to then allocate them a consultant and get that work done. And if you want to know a little bit more, just go to the website for more information, and the web address is there. Sarah's now going to do a demonstration on the tool and just walk you through the different components and then drill into some of the KPI functionality as well, if you're interested in calculating some of those KPIs within the business.
Thanks for that, Steve. So here we have the tool itself, which is our Farm Business Review tool. And I'll just give you a bit of a demo as to what you can expect if you are partaking or using this tool yourself. So there's three main parts of the tool, which is the Business Impact Calculator, the Business Resilience Assessment, and the KPI Express, where you can look at those key performance indicators and compare yourself to your previous performance, but also to what standards within the industry are. So the first tool, being the Business Impact Calculator, shows a real snapshot of what we can expect BPS payments to be in the future. So a fairly average payment from the visits we've been doing so far has been in the region of £37,000. And that key date that Sarah was on about earlier, being 2024, you can expect half of your current basic payment to land in your account. The dark blue boxes being what we know has been set out, and the light blue boxes possibly subject to change depending on what future governments decide. But the general theme is it will be dropping, and if you've got a higher payment level, it will drop quicker in the first few years. When we look at the Business Resilience Assessment, which is our second box in here, this is a really good way to do a bit of a self-assessment of how you think the business performs and yourself within that business. So it's based on some really good research which came out of our market intelligence, which is the 8 traits of top performing farms. And you can go through and mark yourself against these metrics. So for example, do I regularly review my overhead costs? Well, yes, I think I'm quite good at that. Do I consider my machinery costs? Well, yes, perhaps not as much. And you can go down through and score these as you like and as you think your business is performing. When it gets to the results, it shows you the average of what you've scored for those areas. And this is really good when that consultant comes for the half-day visit, because it shows you an overview of that business very quickly, and it can allow you to really focus in on those key areas. The final one, and the most important one for today, is that piece on data. So if we go into our key performance indicators, so I set up some different enterprises in here. So I've got a ewe flock, I've got a suckler group, and I've got a whole system. And I can add different sorts of enterprises, such as stores and finishing beef in here, or store lambs as well. But I'll just stick with these for the moment. So let's look at this business one of whole farm. So how would be a really good way of telling how your whole farm performance is? Well, we've got a KPI in here of net profit margin. And this is a really good way to tell at a glance, in a real snapshot, how your business is performing. So you can put in your year-end date. Let's go for the 31st of March. And you can put in some figures in here in terms of the total farming income, any grants and subsidies you receive, and your cost to your business. And these can just be taken off of your accounts as round figures. Now, I did one of these on a farm last week, so I'm gonna go the quick way through and say that I don't need to calculate my result because I already have done on paper. And this particular farm I was at was about 8%. So that's 8% of their total income retained as profit on the bottom line. So this shows us on a really simple traffic light system that the business is performing quite well. It could still be better, but it is in quite a good position. And there's lots of resources over here, as there are for each of the KPIs, that will help improve that performance. So let's look at a lamb one, shall we? So in my ewe flock, I've got an option of lots of different KPIs. So I have got things like flock replacement rate, ewes sold and ewe mortality. I've got lambing percentages for outdoor and indoor systems, lambing losses from scanning to rearing, daily live weight gain, and some cost of production metrics. Now, one of the really key things to note here is I do not expect you to do all of them. There's a lot of information there, but the key thing is to pick 2 or 3 that are really relevant to your business and something that you find you'd really gain from measuring. So let's, for example, look at this lamb losses scanning to rearing. So I'm going to put in my year-end date again. And because I don't know my result, I'm going to calculate it down here. So I had 80 females scanned as singles, 160 with twins, 30 with triplets, no quads, luckily. And then in terms of total lambs, there was 376. So really simple if you've got those figures in front of you. And I can save that and it will tell me on my traffic light system where I stand. Oh, not particularly well. So I've been told to review my performance, and in terms of the scale, not a very good position to be in. And there's some resources over here of how I can look to improve that. I could also go back in and enter that again from the previous year and say, well, is it something that's got worse in the last 12 months? Or if it's something I'm really targeting, I could review it on a more regular basis for certain ones of the KPIs, especially things like daily live weight gain. So I've now got 3 KPIs for my ewe flock enterprise entered in. So let's have a look at this daily live weight gain one, because I've mentioned that already. It says I've got a room to improve. So within this one, I've put in my figures and it showed me that I had 321 grams a day. And actually, it's not awful, but there is definitely scope for improvement there. And if you ever get curious as to what they're counting in these metrics, there's a lot of information as you're putting in the data to give you pointers in terms of what you need and what you should have handy. And if you would like to know a bit more about the definitions, there's always these on each of the links. So if I go into my suckler herd now, I've already got 2 in here. So I've got my full economic cost of production at 804, and that's telling me I really ought to review performance. And then I've got my age at first calving of 26 months, which is, yeah, room to improve, but it's not a desperate need to review performance just yet. So let's add another one in here. I've got a daily live weight gain figures to add in. So I'll put in the same year end, so I'm being consistent. And I don't know my result already, so I'm going to put some figures in here. So my average weight of calves was about 400 kilos and they were 280 days. So it simply worked out for me that I'm working on about a 1.3 kilos a day, which is actually pretty good performance. There's room to improve as always, but it's pretty good starting place. But if I was looking to improve, then perhaps I would look at these resources over here. So there's a feeding suckler calves and cows that looks particularly interesting, and I might go and have a look into that a bit more detail. I'll just do one more to show you that there's a lot of variety in there if you'd like it. So I have got calves alive 24 hours but after birth. So my year end. And then I'm going to calculate my result. Well, this farm that I was on last week, they had 106 out of 114. So it's showing me that I'm on about 93%, so room to improve, but on average, not a horrendous score. And there's some pretty good resources over here in terms of suckler fertility and things like that that would help to improve that. So the more of these KPIs you can do, the better it will be for when that consultant comes to do your farm visit, because they've got a really good flavour of the business and can see really well if there's any particular areas to improve. But equally, after you've had your consultancy visit, you might decide, actually, I think my performance is better than it used to be, and it's definitely on track to where I need it to be. So you can go in and add previous years to allow yourself a really easy comparison. Once you've had your consultancy visit, you'll get an action plan. So they're going to pick out a key area from each of those 3 tools that the business could really benefit from focusing on. So when we do these on farm, when we look at replacing BPS income, you can do that from profit sufficiency and having a little bit more profit from cost control management. It might mean if it's a significant gap to fill that you have to do some more business planning and development. It might be that you need to slightly change your system a bit more than you were expecting, or look at alternative sources of income. And one of the really key bits we talk about when we do these visits would be environmental schemes and the future payments available to farmers and what that could look like in terms of a figure for the farm. We'd also look at something that would be a quick win for the business resilience assessment. So one of those traits that's scored a bit poorly, that would be a really easy way to improve the business. It might be in terms of setting some long-term business goals. It might be a case of focusing a bit more detail on the time management of the business. Some specific examples we've had recently of where people have been looking to replace staff members, but the reality is they actually need a slightly different job doing than the previous person that they're replacing. So it's a bit of sitting down and working out, well, what do I actually need that staff member to do for me? And then in terms of the KPI Express, it might be that there's a real business need and a business focus, and there might be some additional support to help with that. Or it might be that there's some really good wins within the production side of things. And of course, that would help towards the farm's carbon footprint. So that would be the Resilience Fund action plan you get at the end of it. After the Resilience Fund has finished and we've got a deadline of early next spring, this tool will be available to use beyond that. So please don't think it's just there for the time that the consultancy is, and you can go back in and monitor those KPIs again in 6-12 months' time. Thanks, Sarah. That's all I had to cover this morning.
Brilliant. And thanks, Steve and Sarah, for taking us through that, because I think it's a great opportunity that farmers have right now available to them. I know as farmers, we're not great at taking advice. We're probably not so great at listening sometimes, but there's an awful lot of information out there. And then you guys have got a depth of information behind the scenes that is phenomenal, to be honest. So I think it's great to see this opportunity. And as you mentioned, Steve, there are others out there offering a similar service under the DEFRA fund. So yeah, just for everyone to keep their eyes out. But I would strongly encourage anyone that's listening to this and has the opportunity to just sit down and even send an email to you guys and say, well, what does this look like? What can I do? Because I think just taking some simple steps to understand where are you now and where could you go, will set the scene really strongly for the future. So change is something we all try and avoid, but I think we're coming to a point in I suppose the industry now with all the challenges we have where it is inevitable, but we want to make that transition as smooth as possible. So really welcome the time that you guys have given us this morning for walking us through that, and say hopefully anyone listening will decide to log on and take opportunity sooner rather than later. With the dark nights coming in, there's plenty of time to sit in front of the computer and play with a few figures. So thank you very much, everybody. For anybody that wishes to sign up and take the advantage of this opportunity, the details are on screen, but I think the key thing is to sign up quickly. As the guys have said, it ends in February this year, but we need to have time to get farmers visited by the consultant in that period too. So sooner rather than later, I think is the message, guys. Thank you very much.